Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of a Breadcrumbs webinar. We are so fortunate to be joined today by two go-to-market experts. We have Jordan Crawford from Blueprint, founder at Blueprint, and Eric Noswoslawski, founder at Growth Engine X. They are here today to help us think about how to build a scalable GTM testing engine. And I can tell you, I, for one, am super excited to hear what they have to share. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us. Only one of us is a gentleman, but I'm not going to tell you which one.
Oh. Very nice for having us. No, it's our pleasure. We really really appreciate you guys carving out some time to be here and sharing your knowledge. As usual, folks, I'm going to disappear, going to give the stage to these two individuals to share their knowledge with you. I'll pop back in later, but hope everybody gets something meaningful and actionable out of today's session. Thanks again, guys, and feel free to go for it.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks so much, Gary. And by the way, please go in the comments right now and say hello to, say hello. Tell me about what company you're running. So I'd like to start there so we know who our audience is. We know what you're working on. We know what you're thinking about. This is going to be this doc is so valuable. We don't want to distract you with slides. We want to talk to you about our knowledge so that you can really hear and listen to this, because Eric and I think that a lot of these go-to-market motions are just so fundamentally wrong that the best use of our time here today is to reorient you to a better way to think about go-to-market. Eric, before we kick this off, is there anything else that you want to say about this?
No, I think the biggest thing that we'll also be covering is a lot of this has to do with testing your hypothesis around what you think is valuable to a customer versus what is actually valuable to a customer. And yeah, we'll talk about that throughout this time.
Yeah, and let's start there. So the way that I will talk about these go-to-market experiments, and by the way, the goal is to be able to rapidly test this at scale. That's really important. And so a lot of people think that there's this dichotomy between either I send personalized messages at low scale or I spam my market. And so Eric and I fundamentally reject this continuum. We think that you can send great messages at scale. Yes, and also don't be shy. I love the chiron at the bottom. So really this begins with an understanding of your customer. You cannot test your way into understanding your customer. There's no way you can do it. Don't even try. And so all of our go-to-market problems, every single one of them, is rooted in the idea that you can guess what the market needs and not anchor it at your customers. So let's kind of divide this into two company stages. If you're early founding days, you're 10, 20, 30 customers, do it yourself. Manually write messages. Don't scale anything because you don't know the market at all. And actually, the effort of you writing people manually is a learning process for you. It's to see their LinkedIn profile. It's to see their company. It's to go and read their job descriptions. It's to understand their news. It's to hear from them on LinkedIn. You're washing yourself in information when you do that. So Eric and I are not going to talk about that stage. We think that you should avoid hiring your first SDR as long as possible until you can get to enough customers that there are themes that emerge. Okay, so after that happens, after these sort of themes start to emerge, and I think, Eric, what do you say? Like 50 to 100 customers is sort of the time when this starts to happen?
It depends on your LTV, of course, but if you're talking about a SaaS company that's got a recurring revenue model, then yeah.
Yeah. So once you have this, I talk about this as throwing spaghetti into the universe. If you're not anchoring on what customers actually say, you're throwing spaghetti into the universe, which is that you have no idea if your messages are going to land. You have no idea who you're targeting. And it's not enough to say we target between 50 and 100 people in the United States that work in manufacturing. That is not it at all. And the way to do this is to have a conversation with your customers. And so let me actually walk through a real case here that gives you an idea of how to think about this. So one of my customers sells security cameras, right? And they sell to IT directors. Now they sell across a ton of industries, right? So you can imagine the people that need security cameras are everything from sort of the Home Depot to Eric's wife to monitor him at the house, right? A lot of people need security cameras. So huge variety here, right? Well, their first idea is like, well, the IT directors will hire us, will solve this job to be done with security cameras to monitor for theft, internal loss, right? Where employees stealing money. Well, imagine all the things that you could that could use that message, right? The lock company could say, well, we sell it with prevention of internal loss. The company that does those, have you ever been to if you've ever been to a Walgreens in San Francisco, you can't buy anything. Everything is behind a glass, like a glass shield, even the $2 toothpaste, right? That company said, we'll protect people from stealing. The alarm company, right? The security guard that wants to hire, they all are selling this loss of shrink, right? Now, I said, you just can't differentiate yourself with that message. So what they said is, Jordan, it turns out that one of our customers has found that they found security issues, OSHA issues, right? Which is the safety administrator in the United States. And they said, we found out that some of our workers weren't wearing hard hats. And that's a $40,000 fine without hard hats. So I was like, wow. And how many how many, what's the fine? It's $40,000 per helmet missed. It's like, oh my gosh, that's and how many workers do you have? We have 500 workers. So it's like, okay, well, how can we figure out who has been fined, right? That's real money outside your pocket. Well, OSHA tells you this company just was fined $40,000 for missing helmets. Now, I didn't invent this. They said that customers told them, we have saved ourselves from OSHA fines. We've got OSHA fines in the past because your AI camera system can scan hours and hours of footage and say, Eric does not wear his helmet. And I can go to Eric and I'm like, Eric, that's a $40,000 fine. It's coming out of your paycheck. Put your damn helmet on. Who else can sell that? It is painful. It is based on a customer encounter. It has a dollar value associated with it. And it's something that the locksmith, the alarm companies, none of these guys can tell you. It's specific to AI cameras. So you can see now that because we deeply understood where their customers came from, where that data existed in the public, not only do we have a great targeting list here, we know who's getting fined. We know if they're in their same industries. We know what the fines are about. We now have a message. Eric, I'm so sorry to see that you got a $100,000 fine for Larry not wearing his helmet. Do you wish that you would never have to get a fine again? And would you like an AI camera system to be able to tell that for you? And I can say, we'll send it to you for free. If we don't find a helmet off of a head in the first month, you'll get 6 months on us. Great offer, great targeting, great pain. Eric, do you have some case studies here to talk about how people might think about this?
Well, and so I'm actually going to go in a little bit of a different direction.
Yeah,
and
great.
So that's great for understanding your customer as far as, what do they find valuable and being able to put those messages together and all of those things. And then while you're also thinking about that, a lot of the times when you're doing founder-led sales and you're trying to transition to, a more scaled sales approach, when you're doing founder-led sales, a lot of times you're getting a lot of word of mouth, a lot of referrals, or a lot of inbound that's coming to you with some channels that you've already set up. And so another thing that I always talk about with people is, yes, so now you have an understanding of your customers and listen to what Jordan said about that. You also need to think about, how does your customer journey change when they are an outbound lead versus when they come in from all of the other channels. And so now this part you need to understand about your customer as well. And so I'm going to use my agency as an example here, because we went through this and I experienced it. So, I'm the best to talk about it, and I know my customers extremely well. So I'm going to talk about how I solved it. And so running an agency, I got everybody from word of mouth or some kind of inbound. It was really referrals, probably for the first 6 to 8 months of running an agency. I then started building a team, and I thought to myself, ooh, what if we aren't in control of our sales process and we need to get customers immediately? I should probably turn on outbound because I'm an outbound agency and we should do this. And so then I booked meetings like crazy because your boy knows what he's doing. And I got all of these meetings, and then I would get on the calls with them. And then when I presented our pricing and packaging, there was a mismatch because in the market, I'm sure the audience gets these emails all the time. There's tons of people who are like, I got this email today. I have no clue who it's from because it looks like every other email I've gotten. But somebody emailed to me today and they said, hey, if you need leads, I can get you 20 leads. And you don't have to pay us for it. Like, we're only going to do it if, we get you 20 leads and then we'll pay you $1,000, like whatever. And they just like making these crazy claims. And so the market expected me to say that. And then when I positioned our retainer, they said, nope, don't want to do it. We're out. We're not doing this. And so then that is because, so I would do one called closes when it was referrals and it was inbound and they saw my LinkedIn content and those kinds of things. But on a cold audience, wasn't working. And it's because you have to think about, I usually think about it as like, how much energy does it take to get water to boil, right? And so when you are starting with somebody who is a referral, they're an inbound, they see your LinkedIn content, they love what you're doing. Now they're at like, I don't know, 150 degrees Fahrenheit. And maybe we could use Celsius to make the numbers easier, but whatever. They're at like 150 degrees Fahrenheit. To get them to boil and close a deal, you need to put in energy to close that gap of 62 degrees. If they're freezing cold though, well, okay, they're not going to be freezing cold because they said yes. So, they're at least a little bit. So they're not, 32 degrees. They're not completely frozen, but they might be like 60. And it's going to take way more energy to get them across the line to a closed deal than it would for like an inbound relationship or those kinds of things. So so now we look at this and we say, okay, let's break down why are they cold, right? And so one, they're cold because they are comparing me with every other email that they've ever received from these companies that honestly are offshore, and they're going to hurt your brand more than anything.
This is a message market fit issue too. If you talk about lead gen, everyone talks about lead gen and it's much higher bar on cold outreach versus talking on LinkedIn. Eric has these like marathon videos where he's like, and then we do this, and then we do this, and then we do this, and we do this. So he cracks open the process. And he's like, here's all of the effort we put into your success. And that's a totally different thing. And people are washing themselves with that content day in and day out. And they see it. And it's not like, damn, I need lead gen. It's like, I want to work with Eric. And these are two different things. These are two different things. The bar for outbound is much higher. So if you're getting all this inbound and you think I'll just turn outbound on, like that, it will not work that way. The bar is much higher. You have to be much more specific. Especially in vertical SaaS. Now we do have, we have a couple of questions here. I thought maybe we could, Eric, unless you want to.
I'll just wrap up really quick.
Yeah.
So then so the original message I was sending one, they're comparing me to like everybody else on the market, and I didn't do a good enough job differentiating myself in the message and also the sales process. And then two, there's also this level of trust of like, okay, can this person actually do what they could say they could do? Because I'll admit it, like we're a dime a dozen industry. Like if you just throw a rock and ask for a lead gen person, you'll get 256 comments. Exactly. You'll get like 256 comments, and like there's going to be a ton of people who be like, oh, I could run this for you, right? And so funny they like get help from Jordan and I, but put that aside. So we have to overcome all of these things, right? So the message I was sending that we were booking a ton of meetings from was, hey, I noticed that you have salespeople on your team. I have to figure that they're using outbound because there's titles like Brian, who's an SDR, and I bet they probably work with Nick. And we would like use, different technology to connect these people together so that we could email the VP of sales or the CEO and say, like, I know you're doing outbound because you have these titles on your team. Then we'd use AI and we would look at their company description and we'd say, okay, they're probably running these kinds of campaigns. And then I would ask them, like, I would bet that Brian is spending their entire day doing this thing. Are they doing it manually? We could help you automate it. So then that's how we booked a ton of meetings. If anybody's curious, booked a ton of meetings, but I didn't overcome those other things. I didn't differentiate myself, and I didn't break down that barrier of trust to go from like 65 degrees, like room temperature, to like boiling hot, like they're going to close the deal. So then we changed our messaging and we moved it up the funnel, and I made it a free offer to them instead. So the messaging was pretty similar, But then I used AI to say, like, I bet you're targeting these types of customers. And then we created these Google searches to find those types of customers and their LinkedIn profiles. So I could put it in the message and it'd be like, Jordan, I bet you want to talk to this person, and this person. Even if I'm wrong, help me clarify on a call. And if we get on a call together, I'll build you a list of 5,000 prospects for free. And you'll see how I do the entire thing. Now, when I do that presentation and they're like, whoa, this is way better than Apollo filters, now I can close that gap of trust far faster. And then we can get into like a 2 to 3 call close instead of like, 3 calls and then like they never talk to me ever again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what Eric is saying too is so the reason that the LinkedIn stuff works much better is that Eric has 9 months to convince someone that they're ready to buy without him ever talking with someone. But from a cold email, he has 9 minutes. And so he has to boil down 9 months of being awash in Eric's ideas to 9 minutes. And that is, and that bar is the difference between say and do, because everyone says, of course, I build you leads, but the do is where it matters. And with some of these modern go-to-market tools, you can, and the large language models, you can programmatically deliver the do. You can, that's a mountain. That should be a mountain. that should be a Mountain Dew thing. All right. I do want to get to some questions here. So we've got a question: how to discover channels and actions to increase ICP registration in a SaaS business. I wish that question had a little bit more specificity. But channels is a really interesting thing. People are really obsessed with channels, and I'm weirdly not as obsessed with channels. I think that if you look, engineers are going to be less on email than salespeople. Like, that's true. You'll find that their salespeople are going to spend more time on email, and there are going to be better channels for better audiences. But this goes down to the quality of the message. If you have a really, really, really great message and your ICP shows up there, it's a different thing. You wouldn't do a LinkedIn content for engineers. Like, they just aren't on. It's like LinkedIn is their poison. But like for email, for example, like most people have email, most people check email. It's that the message is so boring. So if you had 100 calories to spend and you were to think about the spending of quality of message and the quality of the data versus the quality of the channel, I would spend 80 of those 100 calories on the message and the targeting, and 20% of those on, channel thinking. ICP registration to a SaaS business. I think this is something people get totally wrong about email specifically. What they want to do, people mess up marketing and sales channels. What they do is they send cold email as a marketing channel, not a sales channel, and they're totally different, right? If you ever got a marketing message from email, like this is like a MailChimp newsletter, a Substack newsletter, no one is pretending that that's from a person, and they also don't have an expectation to chat with a person. But if you send a message, if I send a message to Eric and I said, "Hey Eric, I know you don't know me from a hole in the ground. Will you sign up for my SaaS thing?" Eric is going to say, "I hope you and everyone you ever know die in a tire fire," as he should, because I'm coming to him cold and I'm saying, I'm sending you a personal message and it's not worth my time to talk to you. I want you to take some action. That's too high of a bar. It's much more interesting to say, I have crafted an email that Eric would pay for. If I sent Eric a message and I said, "Eric, I know you're an outbound agency, and you're one of the best looking agency owners on LinkedIn, and I'm going to here are prospects that I think you should target, why I think you should target them, and what you should say to them. Here are a top 3 of them." I bet you that Eric's going to take that call. So you don't want to figure out, your goal is not to get someone to click on an email. Your goal is to get a reply. Your only goal on a cold email is to get a reply, and that reply earns you more information. That more information earns you a meeting. That meeting earns you the opportunity to disqualify them. And then if you cannot find a way to disqualify them, that earns you an opportunity to get money from them. Okay, we got a question about ed tech here. Which educators to target, when to target them, and what time of year? Okay. Thanks, John. So I have an ed tech customer right now, and I will say that, and I'm specifically talking about K through 12. That's the only thing I have any experience in. The good thing is educators do respond over email. So it's a fine channel. LinkedIn, I do not see activity of K through 12 on LinkedIn. I haven't seen it. I've looked at a lot of the profiles for K to 12, and I don't see activity. I wouldn't spend time on LinkedIn. Which educators to target? That's a question that only you can ask. So it's like saying, what dish does your mom want you to bring to Thanksgiving? I don't know. Like, ask your mom. And so, which educators to target is really who's getting value from you today. Look at your existing customers. Who's bought? Who's the champion? If you listen to gong calls, who are the people that are like, and another thing, I love it because of this, and another thing, I love it because of this. Those are the people to target. When to target them? Surprisingly, Eric and I are like bears. We hibernate in December because not many people in B2B SaaS respond in December because of all these like really good tech benefits. It's like, take all of December, all of November off. Who works in those 2 months? But in K through 12, because they're real workers. You're not sitting high in the hog over here in tech. They work in December. And so I think that you should be able to find some traction even in the December months. And it might actually be good because they're planning for sort of the next semester. In terms of what time of year, I think they're going through budget cycles right now. This depends on if you're targeting at the district level or the school level. So I would look at when their budget cycles are. And there's like a Gov Spend is one of the at the district level is a provider that will tell you when people are. There's like council meetings or something for school districts when they say like, yeah, we shall decide on the budget for elementary, middle school. Preferred tool. Actually, what? Yeah, go ahead. Go for it.
So we have 2 clients that also target schools, and it, a lot of the same things. Like one of them, they're targeting the sports leagues. So then we pair everything with like, if it's volleyball season, we're reaching out to volleyball coaches. If it's, volleyball and football would be the same. Bowling season's in the winter though. So then, we do bowling or swimming, and then like that goes for the winter. And then
can you bowl? Eric, can you bowl?
Like if you want me to get 105, like, yeah. Every time I go bowling, I'm always like, oh, I bet a 180, 200 score is totally possible. And then you show up and you're like, wow, 72.
I got a turkey one time, 3 in a row, 3 strikes in a row. Yeah, I was really famous in my own mind for that.
Yeah. And so then the other one that we found was we have one client that one of the things that they can do is they can target schools and then like buy laptops from the schools that they're about to throw away. It's like pointless to reach out to those people unless it's March to June because they're not getting rid of anything in the middle of the year. So I was like, let's just stop this. And we just move to corporations instead. So it matters, but it just matters. Like, I agree with Jordan. Like, these things do kind of matter, but it like matters very customer centric wise.
Yeah. Like, and here's a good example when you talk about time of year to reach out. One of our clients, they know that there are some schools that have like a no technology policy. And weirdly, that's a good signal for them because they can come in with their technology because they know that the school has to buy technology separate from all the devices that kids have. And so we look for people that have no technology. And that's a signal, for example, that is independent of the time of year. So really, this is about understanding your customers as opposed to like, what's right for education. It depends on your budget cycles. It depends on, and education does have budget cycles, whereas B2B SaaS is like evergreen. It's like people have the authority to buy at certain times. Now they do plan budgets, but it's not that if it's March, they can't find budget to buy something. Preferred tool for managing email campaigns. So Eric and I use Smart Lead. Instantly is another good tool. These are the two tools, that's hard to say, that's the sort of majority of the modern B2B SaaS organizations are using. That people don't use some of these more legacy tools or these old email senders. Anything else you want to say on tool stuff, Eric? This is your I
tell everyone instantly.ai is better if you're just getting started and you just want something that kind of like moves quicker for you. And then Smart Lead, if you're like an integrations person, their API is better. So it's kind of like the Apple versus Android conversation here. It's like, do you want just something out of the box or do you want to manipulate it? Well, I've built a whole analytics dashboard outside of Smart Lead because of their API. So yeah.
Amazing. What's the best practice for SDRs to manage personalization at scale? Oh, I hate this. I love this question, but I hate this question. Eric, I'm going to let you start with this question, and then I'll take a crack at it.
So what I always say about this is you want to start backwards from what's the best message that they would send if they were.
That's my line. You
I
took
don't know
my
about
line.
that. I'm not so sure about that. So what's the best message that they would send if they were to research somebody for 10 minutes and then work backwards from that? The only time I've ever not been able to work backwards from that, there was 2 times. One time AWS was like, "Oh, I want to know anytime that on the Zoom transcripts for these town hall meetings, they mention this thing." And I was like, towns, you can't do that because towns like they'll like post their transcripts as a PDF and then some will post it as like a website link and then it's just not programmatic enough to be able to do that. And then the other time somebody was like, "Oh, I want to target anybody who's using Google Meet to sell." And I was like, that's not even real.
That's not a
Like,
thing.
I was like, you can't do that. So I just posted about this. So, you know, you could do things like, "Oh, hey, I saw your latest LinkedIn post about blah, blah, blah. And I wanted to dig deeper into, it started me digging deeper into your company. And I saw that you help people do XYZ." That, in my opinion, is like table stakes today. If we don't have a better thing to say than that, that is the last thing that we go to say. But we do have like this relevancy waterfall where it's like we look for their latest LinkedIn post, we look for the company's latest LinkedIn post, we look for recent news about the company, and then we just default to like what the company does if there's nothing else that we can look for. But really what we want to do is we want to work backwards from what would you say if you were to manually research them anyway, and then just say that. So we've got one customer that like the only trigger that matters is that they don't have a dedicated data engineer or an analytics engineer on the team. And so then it's like, we just score everybody for that. We don't need to use AI to say that, because as soon as you get, a big fat 0 on the company for not having that, then that message just resonates there. So we could probably help you even more if you were to talk more about who you're trying to target and what the best message is. But it's always just working backwards from what I would say anyway.
Yeah. Yes. And to dovetail on Eric's point here, I think that the best way to think about this is if you, as the founder, could spend unlimited amounts of time writing a great message, what does that message look like? And then work backwards to turn that into a process. And now, ideally with tools, not with SDRs, because SDRs are unreliable just because they're people, not because of their title. So I think that the question really is like, if you look at your existing customers and they tell you something, well, it was when this happened. It's usually the third question that you can get this. They're like, "Oh, we bought this thing." And here's a good example. There was a product manager that was having a conversation with the customer, and the customer said, "We need permission management." Well, permission management is a really expensive thing to build. And the product manager said, "Well, tell me about the time when you realized you needed permission management." And they said, "Well, one of our contractors deleted the file and it deleted it for everyone. And he just thought it deleted it for him." So it's like, aha, what you actually want is that if someone it goes to delete, are you sure? This will delete it for everyone, right? And that's this product manager could have gone on a 6-month expedition to like create all these permission features. And all they had to do was create a single box that was like, "Hey, this deletes it for everyone." And the contractor would have been like, "Oh, that's not what I want to do." And it would have instantly solved the permissions problem. So this is when we talk about some understanding of who your customers are. All you have to do is take that understanding to the market. So it's not about personalization, because personalization might mean that you're targeting totally the wrong people. It's more about who needs you and why do they need you. And Clayton Christensen has a really great framework here called the jobs to be done framework, which is just because Eric and I have nice cameras and nice microphones doesn't mean that we're going to post on LinkedIn, right? Or just because these things are not related. But what is helpful is like, I need to be able to, my customers can't see me on my potato webcam, and I think that that's hurting my credibility. So I have a problem with credibility. So I'm like, okay, so that's why I buy a camera. So you want to say, who are the people right now that are struggling to be credible? And that's a different type of thinking about targeting and than anything else.
Definitely agree there.
How do you find
message
message
market fit?
market? Yeah, this is you. Finn here, of course, my favorite Finn.
Oh, that's the Finn. Oh yeah, Finn was
This-
messaging me too. What's up,
There's
Finn?
only one. There's only one Finn. I mean,
Yeah.
come on, who's Finn? I mean,
Yeah. Okay, so with message market fit, I think we've touched on a lot of this actually. Message market fit is really just like, what can you say that will get resonance from people, and all you're really talking about is like, hey, I think you have this problem. We help solve that problem. Let's go. I'm not actually like a really big believer that like A/B testing 5 different versions. I guess that would be like testing. A/B testing 5 different version of copy to like find your best messaging. I'm not a huge believer in that. I'm more of a believer of like, okay, let's start from the beginning. I think these people are going to resonate with this because they have this problem. And the reason this problem is something that we can solve is because our company does this, and we have some customers who told us about this, and we're going to message towards that problem. There's only been a couple of times that I think messaging has really changed a campaign. Like I completely revitalized a campaign we were doing for a tax brokerage service, where we first were like, oh, hey, like, do you need to do your taxes for the end of the year? We can help you do taxes. You want to save money and you not pay the government? And then we changed the messaging to, how do you know that your current accountant is using every legal possibility to get you every dollar back from the government? And that was maybe the only time that like I can point to that like the messaging alone changed everything. Usually what changes things more is like, what can you offer them in the email? So like I said, when I went from like, do you just want to have a call about getting you leads, to I'm going to give you 5,000 leads if you take a call with me, that gave us a huge increase in responses. So that's like a more like lead magnet. Like Jordan and I talk about this all the time too. How do you sell the prospect on taking a call with you versus selling them on your entire service? And I think people use cold email to be like, we do all of these things. You should buy us. And it's not that. It's like, this is the reason you should take a call with me.
Yeah.
And so I think message market fit is all about, how can you provide enough value that somebody says, yes, this is worth my time to take a call?
Yeah, and I'll say a couple more things about this. So generally the way that people write cold emails is they show up and throw up. So they will say, hey, Eric, I see that you are on LinkedIn and you are connected with people on LinkedIn. I run a lead gen service and I do this 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 and I do this. Eric, will you take a meeting? And it's crazy. It's insane. And it's because you don't have good data you don't know why you're sending Eric an email just because, he's got a face and you like money. You don't know what to say to him because you don't know why. And then you're asking a crazy thing. It's like, take a meeting with me. Why don't you burn your time to figure out if you should buy my service? That's a shitty ass email. Now, I do want to like briefly talk about some April Dunford stuff here, because there is value in understanding your message market fit. We're talking specifically about some of the go-to-market motion, which is you don't have to get it right. You just have to be good enough that's better than the market. So I think this has been a good framework that I really like here, which is the April Dunford. This is like her thing here. She talks about you need to find the intersection of your solution, market context, and a trend. And so let me give you an example, and I'm going to make this up for Eric and I business, right? Like, okay, your solution, if I said lead gen, it's like, bleh, right? Like everyone's, oh, lead gen, right? But the market context, actually a more interesting thing is, how do you get your messages delivered with all of the happenings going on with Google inboxes right now, right? So that's the market context, right? So there's my solution, maybe part of this is like lead gen, but if I think about the market context, what's on everyone's mind is the message that the folks at Outreach sent out, and Outreach casually just told all their customers, by the way, every message that you send now will go to spam. Thank you for buying Outreach. And so I have some market context, my solution. Now there's a trend here. So let's connect it with a trend here and figure out, what is this sort of fire center, right? Well, one of the trends that I might say is like, look, AI is coming for your SDRs, and people are using it wrong. They're asking AI to write an entire message. But you know what AI is really good at? Understanding at scale. And so AI can help you with some of this outreach stuff by programmatically disqualifying every single person and every single company or campaign to make sure you have a low compliance, a high compliance rate with this new Google spam policy. So that is an example of triaging those three parts of the intersection here to be able to deliver a message that is about my solution, tied into current market context, and piggybacking on a trend. I wouldn't send that message because I can do actually better. I can actually show you data. I can actually give you something programmatically at scale. But that's an example. Johnny wants to talk about the relevancy relevancy waterfall. Eric, that's you.
Yeah. And so actually, Jordan, I got to show you this. Well, I guess we'll talk about it right now. So we do have some people where there's really nothing that you can do, unfortunately, to say, to look at public data and to say like, hey, I think you have this problem. I'm reaching out because I can help you solve that problem. Here's how we do it. Here's what I could do. Right. So there's some people that you can't do that for. And so I do not let anybody send an email doesn't have AI writing inside of it, because you'll torch the domains and then you'll blame me, even though it has nothing to do with me. It was what we, sent out. And so what we will opt for is the next, in my opinion, human thing that would happen. And so I was thinking about it one day and I was like, okay, well, why would I reach out to a company out of the blue? And it would be because something organically poked out to me that then I went down my own personal rabbit hole of a journey to go look at. And so the relevancy waterfall, which maybe I should really call it the personalization waterfall, because it does really fit way more into the personalization, is I want to find things that are only true right now that make sense of why I would reach out to somebody. So if I saw Jordan's post on my LinkedIn and then I looked into his company and saw what he was doing, and then I was like, oh, wait, this is a great fit for me, I should reach out because I think I can help him. That makes sense. And the tipping point of this is the fact that I saw his LinkedIn post. So what we want to find, and it's not relevancy waterfall, it's recency waterfall. I was like, I'd never named it the relevancy waterfall. I was like, why did they say that? So with the recency waterfall, it's like I am looking for something that has been put into the universe recently that then I can say, okay, I'm going to work backwards from this and say like, oh, hey, Jordan, the only reason I came across you was because I saw this thing, and like, what do you think about that? And go from there. So we first check for a LinkedIn post because it's the broadest, best thing to look for. If you do this, make sure you take out all of the keywords for like obituary and like Palestine and politics and all that stuff. Because that's happened to us. So yeah, just make sure you do that. Yeah,
I'm sorry, funny. Dad died.
Yeah, so anyway, so then we'll do LinkedIn posts first, but then people aren't often on LinkedIn, right? So we'll do LinkedIn posts first, and then we'll do company LinkedIn post. And then we'll look for, and so if neither of those things are true, we keep moving on. So then we'll do company news. And then if there's no recent company news, we look for recent blog articles. And if there's no recent blog article, we look for like anybody in the universe mentioning the CEO's name of the company, just like at all, like in some kind of article, even if it was a while back, because then we could at least say we saw, even if the article's a year old, like we could still say that we saw the article. And then if we can't find any of those things, we put into AI what that person's title is, what the company description is, and what that person says that they do for the company on their LinkedIn profile. So that then at least we can reach out at a very minimum and just be like, hey, I was on your LinkedIn profile and, I saw that you manage PPC campaigns for, the agency as you help people, scale their campaign, whatever it might be. We can at least get that line going. And then we segue it by talking about what the company does. So like, hey, Jordan, I saw your LinkedIn post about this, that, and the other thing. Then I started digging deeper into your company and I saw that you help people do XYZ. And so I'm also saying this is I think a lot of people are listening to this and they're like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, we should do this. This is the last thing that you should do. Like, this is the like, hey, like hit this button. It's like, okay, we have nothing better to say to this person.
But I do want to say something about this approach, which is the idea. And Eric and I have spirited debates about this stuff all the time. But what I do enjoy about this is that it plays on human psychology. Everyone wants to hear about them. No one wakes up and I don't wake. I love Eric dearly, but I don't wake up in the morning and I'm like, oh, what's Eric doing? I better think, what's his day looking like? How's Eric? You know, it's like, no, I'm thinking about my own garbage,
exactly.
right? And so if Eric texts me and it's like, hey, Jordan, how's it going? Are things going well? You know, it's like, I'm like, yes, Eric, things are going well. I'd love to talk about me. I do want to say, I know we're like getting close here. I do want to answer John's question, because this has a quick answer. Many edtech startups are bootstrapped. Are there outsourced lead gen firms that work with startups and get paid based on successful leads? Do not hire these people. Like, I feel very firmly about this, because if you can't generate leads yourself manually, these are the types of firms that will sell you the moon. They do not know your market usually. They do not know what problems your market has. And what you're looking to do is you're looking to outsource your own understanding of your market to someone else. And these people are happy to take your money. They will not do the work to understand who your customers are. They will not do the work to understand who you're selling to, who you are, because you're not paying them to do that. What they're going to do is they're going to spam the universe and hope that some spam comes back and charge you a really low volume from that. And that's not the way that you should go to market.
Thanks, gentlemen. Sorry, I'm just jumping in. Hate to interrupt. Great, lively conversation. To John's question, I think there's just a simpler answer to that. You get what you pay for. So be careful in those scenarios. Jordan, Eric, this has been great. Usually I pop in at the end with a bunch of questions, but we've had lively interaction with the audience. There's actually a couple of questions that we didn't get to. Hopefully you guys can maybe reach out to these folks after the fact. And I would assume that you're open to hearing from people if they want to reach out to you at some point. LinkedIn, I guess, is that the best place?
Yeah. LinkedIn's great. Eric doesn't want to hear from you. Only I want to hear from you on LinkedIn.
That's actually true. We're a little bit too full right now. Like, I actually reach out to Jordan. Like, I really do mean that.
Eric's a great guy.
Well, listen, thank you again. This was super, super interesting. I definitely learned some stuff. Hopefully the audience did. Hopefully you got your questions answered. If you didn't, feel free to reach out to Jordan or Eric after the fact. Thanks everybody for joining. Really, really appreciate it. And we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, Gary. Thanks for having us. Thanks, Tori. Thanks, Eric. Good chatting with you as always.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.